A lot has been spoken about how the ties between India and Russia are very strategic. It's very privileged. The hug, the break-in protocol, all of that reflected that very clearly. But it's very interesting to see how this journey has really moved and how it's going to define the 2030 roadmap for economic cooperation. That's something that we are going to be focusing on today. Ambassador Jain Dasgupta, let me just come across to you at this point. What do you make out of what's lined up now? Let's just put it in the context of what we saw last night. And then from a friendship treaty to a special strategic privileged partnership. These two contours would define how India and Russia are going to be looking at the next few years in a very, very changed new world order.
The relationship with Russia has been one of deep friendship, which has been evolving from 1947 onwards, because the first, I think, diplomatic relationship started in April 1947, even before independence. And of course, the 1971 Friendship Treaty was the high water mark till now. But there has been a progression of the friendship and trust that India has had with Russia, and it is mutual. And of course, most of our defense platforms, for instance, are Russian. We have brought down the purchase from Russia to about 36% or so. But we are co-producing a lot of things, especially related to defense. The BrahMos missile, for instance, the Su fighter jets, the MiG fighter jets, and if the time comes to co-produce, for instance, the S-400 and S-500 at some point of time, we will be well equipped to do that, and Su-57, which of course is still, the decision has not been taken. So this is a logical progression. This is also a statement, a strong statement coming out from both India and Russia, that notwithstanding the relationship with other nations, with whom both of us, both the countries try to have as good a relationship as possible, the bonds between India and Russia will remain and will get stronger with the passage of time. And as far as cooperation is concerned, I think the main areas are, of course, defense, energy, which is undergoing a bit of a storm now because of the sanctions on purchase of Russian oil. But there are other avenues which are being explored. For instance, the modular nuclear reactors. This is something which India has been trying to get the technology for. But I think the US has not really been forthcoming in sharing the technology, and it is not available with many countries in the world. So Russia has the technology and it is willing to offer it. And I'm sure there would be some in the communique, there would be some statement to that effect that we will have greater cooperation and sharing of technology, etc., on the modular nuclear reactors. The last point is trade. And of course, we have a trade deficit of about $59 billion. But with the purchase of Russian oil coming down, the deficit would come down, and we would also try to increase our exports. And the Russians have indicated that they would try to buy more from India to offset the trade deficit.
That's right. In fact, Manish Chand, if I can get you in to just take off from where Ambassador Jain Dasgupta has just left it. It's interesting, the statement coming from President Putin comes just hours after landing in India, a very, very strong statement. And it also sets the tone of what to expect as outcomes from the bilateral ties. As I said, the world order has changed significantly, and that's why it's also very important to set this very clear that even though India and Russia have very strong defense ties. A lot of movement and churn maybe beyond that sector as well, and it's been a very continuing evolution of ties, as it were, from tech and beyond as well. So Manish Chand, what do you make out of the very strong statement that has come from a president himself at a time when you are seeing a decrease in oil imports from Russia?
The centerpiece of this visit, defense and nuclear energy have been traditional pillars of robust India-Russia partnership. But this time around, the centerpiece of the visit is to add more economic heft to this relationship, to diversify the compass of this very important strategic relationship. In this context, as you rightly said, the energy imports are going to come down because of sanctions. And the focus in this visit will be to how to sanction-proof India-Russia economic ties. And in this context, there are several initiatives are on the cards. And one of the major things that is going to happen is we are going to see that the integration of national payment system, how to bypass the sanctions regime. And it's not only about bypassing the sanctions regime, as President Putin said, that US or no other country has a right to tell India where to buy oil from. So I think those questions of national sovereignty and strategic autonomy are linked up with those economic choices. So the challenge now is that moving beyond energy and moving beyond defense, what more India and Russia can do, and how India can step up exports to Russia, because this trade deficit is simply not sustainable. It will become another China story. You see, with China, we have a humongous trade deficit of close to $100 billion. With Russia, we are already touching $60 billion. So this is a matter of concern. And in this regard, there will be very positive messaging from the Kremlin, from President Putin himself. So I see the areas where India can make a big difference and can increase exports. Of course, pharmaceutical has been the traditional strength. IT, we need to look at the service sector. We need to look at AI. And of course, there will be, the labor mobility agreement.
Right.
That will be a sort of game changer if it materializes and if it is implemented.
That's true.
Fast-tracked. So, those are the areas we need to look, because there is a dire need. You see, for all this talk about special and privileged strategic partnership, the India-Russia partnership doesn't have that kind of resonance in the public sphere. That's because the economic content is not that much.